The number one principle always is what you know about your website, about your podcast, other people, I guarantee you they don't. So don't assume that people will know. Always explain, always work, speak in simple terms, and make sure that there are no assumptions at all. I mean, someone lands and you assume that they know what the podcast is about. They have no idea. Why would they know? Unless you are some huge podcast, they don't know. They don't know. Most people will not know. So don't make any assumptions and always explain everything.
Okay. Question number 2. From your experience, no hacks and consulting with brands, what is one metric podcast hosts obsess over that doesn't move the needle? And what should they try instead or track instead?
I have no idea what other hosts obsess over. I have no idea. I'm sorry.
Okay, that we'll try the third one. These are interesting, and I like that. I like that we could do this in real time.
Yeah,
like for our listener today. You've worked with big brands like Instacart and built tools like Podpacer. What is one A/B test, mindset, or experiment every podcaster should run this year?
Wait, is it A/B test? What is it? Mindset, experience? Which one?
It's all three. It's what's something that's either a split test, a mindset, or experiment that we should run.
The mindset. This is also from conversion rate optimization. You don't know. Like everything you assume you don't know until you test it and prove it. It's very what's the word? Like egotistical to assume that you know things that you don't.
Can I give an example of that?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying you don't know unless you know. And there is lots of information. We'll call it about avoiding carbohydrates, for example.
Right.
In the fitness, like carbs are not bad for you, but everybody's like, hey, you have to, the only way for you to get this or that is to avoid carbs. And so there's just bad information. And then when it comes to podcasting, I hear this happen a lot. Somebody, and I don't know when this happened the first time, but people continue to regurgitate bad information, which is that your episode needs to be 20 to 30 minutes because it needs to be the length of the average drive. And if you, and that is all ego, that is all like assumptions, that is all believing some dummy who thought that too. But real quick, 5-minute episodes can be just as valuable as 30-minute episodes, just as 1.5 hour, just as, and I had somebody on this podcast talking about how he usually has 4 to 5 hour podcasts that are about 4.5 hours. And one day he had a podcast episode that was 3.5 hours, and a lot of people reached out to him and said, "What gives, man? Why did you cut it short this time?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm really sorry. It was because there is no right length for your freaking podcast."
Oh, no.
But everybody says it needs to be 20 to 30 minutes.
I wouldn't say that's ego. That's just assuming that what someone told you is right. Also, that's a best practice. Like that's maybe not right, but that you would call that a best practice. I had a quote on my podcast that was the best quote in 4 years of my podcast. A guest said, the only time where best practices are guaranteed to work is in the past, because it would not be a best practice if it didn't work back in the time. Like people saw it worked, and now we call it a best practice. We don't know if it's going to work in the future, if it works today. We only know that it worked in the past. And that's wrong to assume that it always will. Maybe try it, but I don't know. I love to run. Like I run a lot, and I have podcasts depending on how long the run is. I choose my podcast I want to listen to. Sometimes it's a 40-minute podcast. Sometimes it's an hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how long I want to go. So to say that even for one special activity, listening to a podcast, it's not the same length every time, I think it's just completely wrong.